What up, guys? My name's Chase. I run the Upfront podcast. On today's episode, we're doing a reaction video to Dr. Umar. I've listened to a couple episodes with him on it, and he's got some interesting views that I wanted to go over and discuss. And so far, I didn't really enjoy what he was saying. It's just how he speaks and how he puts down other races, I guess. And it just kind of rubs me wrong. And so I was going to go through my impressions and thoughts and what I think about the things that he's saying and just kind of break it down and give my opinion as well on what he talks about. And just a quick disclaimer for clarity and understanding, I'm not racist in any way. I don't have any problems with anybody of any color, any background, any race, anything really. It's not how I look at things. I judge people on their character and their wholesomeness and just who they are and how they treat other people. And I think that's very important, just to make that as clear as I can. All right, let's get into the video.
Impossible. You cannot. Marriage is a business. When you get married, you commit your mind, your body, your heart, your soul, and your pocketbook. Your savings, your estate, your wealth. You commit that to that person you're married to. See, when you marry, you don't marry an individual, you marry into a race. You marry into a community. So I didn't marry a Jewish woman, I married into Jewish society. I didn't marry an Asian woman, I married into an Asian family. There's no way you can claim to love Black people, especially as a Black man, knowing that only 1 out of every 4 Black women will get married in her lifetime. We have the lowest female marriage rate in the country, 25%. That means 75% of Black women will never, ever know what it feels like to be proposed to.
So he went over a couple things right there. One of them was marriage, one of them was Black women getting married. So his stance on getting married was when you're marrying into someone, you're marrying into their ethnic background, their culture, from where they're from, which I would agree. I agree that when you're marrying someone, you're marrying them and where they came from, who they are. His viewpoint is very skewed to me. It sounds very arranged marriage type of a marriage. It sounds very business-like. I would like to think that most people's viewpoint on marriage is a commitment between each other, to come together as one, to be whole, to serve each other. And the other thing he went into was Black women getting married, and they have a very low probability of getting married. I think there's more that goes into it than just the Black aspect of it. I don't think it's a color thing. I think it's a cultural thing, which is a very controversial way to say things. For that argument, it's not because Black women are Black. It's more because of what Black women are known for. Whether it's being loud, argumentative, wanting to fight, very masculine. Men don't want to marry women who have these traits because it's difficult to have a relationship with women like that. And it's not just Black women. It's all women, right? All women who have these kind of characteristics are going to be difficult to deal with, and men don't want difficulty. They want peace. They want ease. They want someone who's going to make their life easier, not harder. And again, I'm not bashing Black women. I'm critiquing women as a whole. I don't think Black women are bad women. I don't think they're not marriage material or they're ineligible for marriage. So to change these statistics to increase the marriage rate for Black women, it's be an adjustment on what Black women are known for. And the likelihood of what the traits stem from is the absence of a father in the household, because you have strong independent Black mothers raising strong independent Black daughters, and kind of pours into each other continuously, and it makes it more difficult for Black women, but all women in general, to submit to a man because they didn't have a father figure or male role model in the household to love and respect. And I believe that plays a huge role in general for women to get married. All right, let's continue on.
Listen, man, we got special guests in the building. We got the Prince of Pan-Africanism, King Kong Consciousness. So y'all know the man. Dr. Umar Johnson.
Glad to be here, fellas. Thanks for inviting me.
And real quick, can you let the folks know that sleeping under a rock that might not know who you are?
Absolutely. Dr. Umar Ifatunde, certified school psychologist, doctor of clinical psychology, founder of the National Independent Black Parent Association, Team Pan-African, the international movement for the independence and protection of African people. I'm probably most known for helping Black parents learn how to protect their children from the special education crisis in the ADHD to prison pipeline. Author of 2 books, Psychoacademic Holocaust, The Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys, as well as Black Parent Advocate, The Art of War, for dealing with America's public and charter schools. I'm also a Pan-Africanist, a Garveyite, and I'm currently putting the finishing touches on the first school in American history to be funded exclusively by the African diaspora, and that is the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy. If all goes well, we'll probably be having our community grand opening during Kwanzaa 2023.
Listen, before we get into these...
That was quite the list of things that he has under his belt. It's good that he's taking his position very seriously. It's admirable. And what he's doing for Black people, I think it's a good focal point that he has because of the struggles and difficulties that Black people are going through. So with all of that, he's using his time and efforts to improve the quality of lives for others. Very nice.
You gotta make sure we get an invite, man, so we can pull up.
Oh, for sure,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Before we get into these topics, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Join the YouTube membership, man. We got some exclusive behind the scene footage, access to early episodes, and then cop the merch, man. DailyRapRecruit.co, man. Make sure I go support. Listen, let me get to this first.
I ain't got no shirt for me.
Oh, definitely do.
We definitely got
definitely
you,
do.
like, you know what I'm
2XL,
saying?
don't give me no bra.
I told you.
You
See,
yeah, you did.
I
say
did.
that.
You know what I'm saying? I appreciate it.
Listen, get into this first topic, right? I know you're very big with the Pan-African community. What is your ultimate goal that you have in mind for the overall Pan-African community?
Great question. The vision, the mission, the goal of Pan-Africanism is to unite all African people globally into one unified and organized system through which we can protect ourselves politically, economically, socially, culturally, spiritually, academically, so forth and so on. So unity is the foundation and independence is the elevation. That's the goal of Pan-Africanism, to make sure African people are not dependent upon members of other races in order to protect our lifestyle, our culture, and most of all, the destiny of our children. Do for self is the heart and soul of Pan-Africanism. So when we win, we will be in charge of our lives. We will control the banks. We will control the hospitals. We will control the criminal justice system. We will control the economy. We basically want a parallel world that is under our authority, because whoever controls your institutions controls your life.
Got you. So the big word that
So a lot of that sounded good at the start of what he was saying, where he was talking about unity, community, bringing everyone together. I agree with that. I think that a lot of us need to come together. A lot of us need to work together and not be so against each other for whatever our differences are, because we're all in this together, no matter what you look like.
that I heard was, unity, right? So what is your overall thoughts? Obviously, you can see that we have this gender war going on, this diaspora war going on. What's your thoughts on those overall wars that's going on within the Pan-African community?
I would not be surprised if we learned 20, 30 years from now that the domestic gender war was inspired by the FBI. Just as the FBI gave birth to COINTELPRO back in the 70s and 60s to disrupt and destroy the credibility and success of Black liberation movements, I could very well see where COINTELPRO or something similar to it could have also been invented to turn the Black woman against the Black man and the Black man against the Black woman. If you look at this, it looks just like COINTELPRO, except it's not Stokely Carmichael fighting Huey P. Newton. It's not Dr. King, and Malcolm having differences. You understand? It's you and your baby's mother having differences. It's you and your fiance having differences. It's you and your wife having differences. And the family is an institution, no different than SNCC, no different than CORE, no different than the Panthers, no different than the Garvey movement, no different than the Freedom Riders. So I'm keeping an eye on it, but I really do believe that at some point we're going to find out that the U.S. government had a hand in the gender wars and the promotion of it, because I don't think it's a coincidence that this Black male versus Black female gender war is being initiated at the very same time that the U.S. government is pushing transgenderism on elementary Black public school children. So is that a coincidence that while you're trying to disintegrate the Black family through non-traditional forms of life, through Black on Black crime, through police genocide, through poor nutrition, poor healthcare, all these weapons, the Snow Bunny crisis, along with that, you see so many commercials now where it's the Black man with the white woman or the Black woman with the white man. Clearly there's an agenda to brainwash our children into either being with someone of the same sex or someone of another race. And I think the gender wars coming at this time plays into the hand of the government's agenda to destroy the Black community. On the other side, when we look at the diaspora wars, I think that's a CIA inspired situation.
Okay, so he was talking about Black families and the destruction of Black families and possibly having there be government interference. There could be, I'm sure they meddle with stuff. I mean, there's documents that get released every so often about stuff that happened 30, 60 years ago, like he was talking about. Structurally, from the way I understand things, there needs to be a father figure and a mother figure in the household harmonizing, working together. If one is not doing their part, it becomes difficult to harmonize. If the father is lacking in leading and is not allowed to lead because the mother is trying to combat and compete, there's going to be disruption there where it's not flowing very well because the woman is arguing with the man about his leadership skills and he's just not allowed to lead. While men need to learn how to lead and guide their family to success and be successful and make sure that their family structure does not fail. It doesn't solely apply to black families, but all families in general that have this disruption, this dysfunction that's going on within their household.
So what would you say about, obviously when we talk about the diaspora world, there's a sense of, African people or Caribbean people using the word, well, I'm not black, you know what I mean? I'm Caribbean or I'm African or whatever the case is. And they kind of associate negativity or negative stereotypes with Black Americans per se. And they feel like they don't want to identify as black because black usually is the term that Black Americans call themselves. So I don't want to be identified as black, so I am Caribbean. It's like they're separate people over there. You know what I mean? So what's your thoughts on that whole, that divide and just that whole blatant negative stereotype that some Africans or Caribbeans or other black people feel towards Black Americans?
Well, the white man's original...
So I want to give my opinion really quick on that before Dr. Umar starts. The same thing I was mentioning before about cultural things. My guess is that because of what Black Americans are known for versus what Caribbeans are known for, there's a cultural difference. Same thing with like Russians and Ukrainians, Israelis and Palestinians. To some people, you would just say like, oh, these people are from Africa, so they must just be African. These people are from Russia, so they're just Russians. These people are from the Middle East, so they're Middle Eastern people. They get into the differences because of cultural differences, and they don't want to be associated with that culture.
The white man's original tactic of divide and conquer, separate and rule is still his most cherished weapon against African people. You see, understandably, when people look at America up until now, being quote unquote the most powerful country in the world, if you want to get down with the most powerful country in the world, you're going to have to despise who they despise. And since America has done such a great job despising African people, anybody who wants to come to this country, even if they are African, are going to seek somebody else's company other than ours, right? That doesn't make what they do right. But we have to look at the fact that we as African people in America haven't done a whole lot collectively to make ourselves the power base we should be for all African people. With our education, with our income, being the richest group of African people in the world in terms of take-home pay, we should be the power base for African people throughout the world. Y'all need institutions, we're going to fund them. Y'all have a problem with your water, we're going to fund that. You understand me? You got a medical crisis, we're going to take care of that. We have the resources, we got the personnel, we got the expertise, we got the money. We should be the power base. So when an African comes to America from outside of this country, they say, well, wait a minute now. If I align myself with the African American, what is in that for me? Because I don't even see the African American doing anything for themselves on a collective basis. We have success, but it's all individual, right? There's very few institutions that we run and control independently. Let's take it to Little League. When you go for the Little League football team or the basketball team, do you go try out for the team that's losing every year? Or do you want to be on the championship team? Most children want to be on the championship team. So when Africans from the diaspora come to America, they see two teams, the black team that has lost 157 straight Super Bowls since the end of slavery, right? And the white team that seem like they still winning and doing great. I want to align myself with the white team. Now, the mistake that Africans in the diaspora are making is that if you do not link up with us, your national homeland will never be free either. See, what they do to African people anywhere, they do to African people everywhere. So if you come from Nigeria, you come from Ghana, you come from Jamaica, you come from Turks and Caicos, you don't associate with African people, you go get you a snow bunny, move up on the west side, you can do all that. But understand, your life is only as sacred as white people allow it to be. At any minute, they can turn you into a Breonna Taylor, whether you have a U.S. passport or not. You've seen it happen here in New York City years ago with the Abner Louima and Amadou Diallo cases, where the police, abused African immigrants right here in New York City. So when it comes to white people, we're all African. They know who we are. But they will use one group against the other as long as it is in their best interest. And once they're done using that group, guess what they do to that group? They destroy them too. It's no difference than looking at the black community compared to black celebrities. They used Bill Cosby as long as they could. And when they no longer needed him, they turned on him. They'll use Whitney Houston as long as they could. When they no longer needed her, they murdered her. Michael Jackson, they murdered him. Prince, they murdered him. Jimi Hendrix, they murdered him. Kobe Bryant, they murdered him. You understand? So all of us are nothing but tools in the hand of white supremacy. We have to wake up from that nightmare, from that imaginary illusion of inclusion that has black people thinking, if I come to America, but stay away from African Americans, I'll be given probationary white status. You'll never be given probationary white status because you are not white. And when they're done using you for your intellectual knowledge.
That was a lot. That is a hard to digest, and he still has more, but I just have so much going on that I just wanted to say something about it. Like, he could be right that there is something going on with this white-black thing, but it's like it has to be in such a high position, like he was saying, where there's these celebrities and stuff like that where people are done using them and they get off and they're no longer needed. Sure, I can see that in that kind of atmosphere, but I'm looking at it as just regular everyday lives, part of like the middle class, the poor class, and et cetera. I don't see that specific thing going on with what he's talking about, where we use black people specifically as pawns to kind of facilitate what we're needing them to do. But he seems to believe that's what's going on. I don't know if he's referring to specifically on a higher scale or just on an average everyday scale for us, regular folk. And for me, it sounds like he's talking from a position where black people can only do better when they're allowed to do better. I don't really see that specifically. I think everyone's in control of their own lives and their own paths and what they can do and where you take yourself in life.
When they're done using you in the labor market, when they're done using you, helping to perpetuate the myth of a multicultural, colorblind America, they'll bust you right back to the country you came from. All African people in America who are not practicing pan-africanism are simply tools that are being used that have an expiration date. And when your utility to the white power structure expires, you will too, and they will send you back home. And this is why they hate blacks in America so much. The white power structure. We're the only non-white people in the country who cannot be sent home.
Right.
You cannot be deported. Slavery destroyed your cultural, psychological, and intellectual connection to your ancestral homeland. If the Ghanaian get on your nerve, he go back to Ghana. If the Puerto Rican gets on your nerves, he go back to Puerto Rico. If the
Nobody's stopping anyone from going anywhere. If people wanted to go back to Africa, I mean, you can go. Not that I'm encouraging or saying that you are not welcome or should or shouldn't go, but it's more of just like, I don't really understand that specifically. If he's just meaning in a sense where like you can't just put on a boat and ship back. I mean, that goes for any race. Like there's plenty of other races that are here. There's people from Russia, people from China, people from Mexico, people from Canada that could all just go back. I don't see how it's solely black people that are the only ones that are ineligible for deportation when America's literally made up of all these other races to become one. We are all American regardless of what your skin color is. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Afro-Cuban gets on your nerves, he or she go back to Cuba, right? If the Chinese get on your nerves, send them back to China. If the East Indian gets on your nerves, send them back to India. If the Arab gets on your nerve, send them back to one of the Middle Eastern states. But when American Africans get on your nerves, where do you deport us to? You can't deport us. Yeah. Slavery destroyed that connection that they needed in order to remove us. Most American Africans are so brainwashed, they think they're American. So you cannot deport them because this is what they identify with most. So in other words, the white man created his own problem, which makes it almost impossible to deport us. So the only way to get rid of us is a systemic system of racial genocide, and that's what they're using.
So what do you think about people, because a conversation or argument that I have is with some Africans or Caribbeans is that they would say that Black Americans don't have any culture, right? Or they'll say that racism doesn't exist because I was able to come from my country and I was able to be successful and provide for my family. Y'all just using racism as an excuse, to hold y'all back or whatever the case is. Well, what's your thoughts on?
Well, number one, they're politically ignorant, socially inexperienced. They know very little about the experience of the American African, and they also don't understand racism. In order for racism to succeed, some blacks must be successful. You need a LeBron. You need an Oprah. You need a Tyler Perry. You need a Sean Carter. You need a Beyonce Knowles. You need a Sean Puffy Combs. You need a Robert Johnson. You follow? Why do you need successful black people if you want to destroy our black people? Because in order to brainwash the other ones into believing that your failure is not due to systemic discrimination, it's due to the fact that you're not intelligent enough or you're not working hard enough. Do you see that? Right. So if Dr. Umar is a billionaire and you've been trying to get your business off the ground, it ain't popped yet. You've been trying to get your corporation off the ground, it ain't popped yet. You done opened up 10 business, they all done flop.
You need me as the billionaire to come and say, fellas, it's not your fault. They designed the system to not work in your behalf. But because I love being rich and I love my proximity to white culture and lifestyle, I don't tell you it's not your fault that there's a game set up and there's only going to be a few Dr. Umars. I tell you the problem is yours. Obviously, you didn't do your business plan right. Obviously, the reason why the bank didn't give you the business loan is because you didn't have your numbers right. Your credit wasn't high enough. You see that? And so the black millionaire and billionaire class is one of white supremacy's greatest arguments to defend itself against accusations of racism. Because Oprah Winfrey is not going to indict the system. LeBron James is not going to indict the system. You understand me? Tyler Perry is not going to indict the system because they made their money through the system. And because they're at the top of black society, they know how powerful white folks really are. They know how unfair the game really is. They know me being here is a privilege that white people gave me. Yes, I worked hard to get here, but I would never be here without their help. At the end of the day, all of our black millionaires and billionaires are owned by the white power structure. I don't say that to be disrespectful because I respect LeBron James, right? I appreciate.
So he was just talking about black people owning businesses, starting up businesses and doing it like that. And then he went on to say, like, you can't, like, from his position, like if he were to give advice like that directly, you just made a bad investment, or you're not advertising your business well, or you're not making good business decisions to promote your business, which is true. If your business isn't doing well, it's because your business isn't doing well. I don't think it has anything to do with like your skin color or that's like saying like a black business owner starts his business and then sells it to a white person and then it suddenly like skyrockets. I don't understand that one. And then he's saying that everyone's white owned. Like I'm really, really trying hard to understand this because I'm imagining there's a black person with someone behind them doing puppetry. And I mean, if that's what he's saying, then he's an example of that because he's black, right? No, I don't see it that way. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, he got himself into the position that he got himself in through, like he said, his own hard work. Went on to say like a white person allowed him to get him there. I'm really lost on that. And the reason I don't understand it very well is because like other people have these same struggles. I understand that each race has their differences because of how they look may have some impact. It's just your background. It's just where you came from. It's just the kind of experience that you have and the network and the people that you know to be able to succeed. That's kind of how that works. Like, it's not like a black thing, because like, just as he said, there are successful black people just as there is with every other race. I think what helps these people get into the positions is just who they know. And I don't really think it's this as cut and dry as black versus white. I'm probably ignorant to it just because of my situation too. I'm down at the bottom. I'm just the same as everyone else. Like, I don't really see this big black-white thing at the top. I've seen a video where a millionaire is talking about racism, and he goes, do you really think that a white millionaire is going to be upset when he sees a black millionaire or any other millionaire? He's going to say, fuck no. He's going to say, nice car, nice house. Congrats on your success. It's crazy for me to hear all this. I guess I just lack understanding. I'm not too sure.
The image of a black man with a black woman with black children who's never been in any trouble, entered the league at 17, 18 years old and never had a single scandal. He's a good example of a responsible black man. I like how Jay-Z came from Marcy Projects and now you're a billionaire the legal way. I like what Oprah did coming from nothing at Tennessee State. I like what Tyler Perry did coming from sleeping in his car to being a billionaire to owning the first all-black music studio, one of the largest in the country. Even white folk go to Tyler Perry Studios to film their movies. Part of Black Panther 2 was filmed at Tyler Perry Studios. So I appreciate their rags to riches story. The problem is they can't top it off with a cherry on top. And the cherry on top is to look the camera in the eye and say, I made it, but most of my people will never will, because the system is not designed for black people to succeed. And this is how they get us. They'll promote a few blacks. Everybody else struggling, everybody else in poverty, everybody else coming out of prison, but they'll promote a few blacks, and because a few blacks made it, they're automatically supposed to mean that we are.
Are they cherry picking which black people to promote? He's naming off these popular names that a lot of people know. I mean, how did they get selected? How did they get themselves into those positions? Did someone just come by and say, hey, I want you because you're going to fill a position for me? I don't know.
Are doing better. No other group you could push that on. because every other group is based on collective group progress.
Right.
Black people, we are totally rooted in selfishness and meism. We don't have weism like the Latinos, or weism like the Asians, or weism like the Anglo-Saxons, or weism like the European Jews. We have meism. And as long as we have meism, a few successful blacks automatically means y'all all must do better. Like I think I saw Jay-Z doing.
He just said what the problem was, because black people have meism. We don't have weism, right? So if we have a selfish problem and not a let's do something for everyone problem, doesn't that kind of prove the argument that it's not an outside source of everyone stopping you from being successful? It's more of you're stopping yourself because there's a disconnect with unity and community? Just a thought.